All right. It's good enough. But anyway, for anyone who is new to the channel, welcome, welcome. You get the jazz hands. For those of you guys who continuing, check me out. Keep on. You're not new to this, but you're true to this. Much love to you guys. And as you guys can see my background here, um, we got MJ, we have Quincy Jones, and you all knew this topic was coming. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. It's kind of impossible to cover MJ topics without eventually getting to some recent statements or not so recent. If you look at it as being 2018, which it is, some not so new statements that Quincy Jones had made in regards to MJ, in regards to quite a few different celebrities in Hollywood. Very interesting. So we're going to unpack that. But before we do, for you guys that are new and you guys are just like clicking on, checking this out, please do hit the subscribe button as well as the, give me a like. But hit the subscribe button as well as the bell so that anytime I go new, anytime I upload something new and I go live, you guys will be the first to be able to check it out. Sorry, you guys, you all already know how I do, all right, with my little papers and whatnot, but I just wanted to kind of unpack this relatively quickly. So as you guys know, or some of you guys may or may not know, Quincy Jones, he was just spilling the tea on everybody in Hollywood. Well, not everybody, but some pretty huge celebs. Quincy Jones calls himself spilling the tea on. This was in 2018, so like I say, not so new. But eventually, you guys know I did have to hit this subject. He said quite a bit about MJ, not so nice. So we're going to dig into that, but I just wanted to kind of give my own synopsis of it or whatever. I'm going to give what I know to be the facts, and then as always, I'm going to give you guys kind of a little breakdown of my personal thoughts on it. Anyone who does not know Quincy Jones, where you been? I don't know if you guys been under a rock, what? But Quincy Jones, just to give a little bit of backstory or his background, huge, major music producer. Now, this time you guys can see it. I don't have to move my head. I don't have to duck because you guys can see. But you guys can see MJ over here, right? Quincy Jones. I think my finger's touching his head. But yeah, so Quincy Jones, huge music producer, songwriter, television producer, movie producer, all of that. Pretty powerful and still active in Hollywood. He's pretty big, pretty major. Now, before he collaborated with MJ, he was already kind of doing his thing. It wasn't like he hadn't worked with other celebrities. He worked with Sinatra, a lot of other huge names in Hollywood. As I mentioned, music producer, got off into television, movies, all of that. But he and MJ, well, first they say he and MJ met when MJ was like 12 years old. After his first album, Ben, I think it's alleged that they met at the Academy Awards at that time, but didn't actually work with each other until 1977 during the filming of The Wiz. And it was during the filming of The Wiz that, at least according to Quincy Jones, he claims that MJ, asked him, could you please recommend, give me a few music producers that you recommend. I'm signing with Epic and I need a producer. So Quincy says, slow down, young buck. You don't even have a song yet. And he actually offered to be MJ's producer, which Michael Jackson was on board with. Again, like I say, what I'm saying, I never actually saw any interviews, not to say that they aren't out there, but I never saw any interviews where MJ actually sat down and gave that whole backstory with Quincy Jones. From what I do see though, he always gave Quincy Jones his credit. Always gave him credit. Always, gave him credit as adding to his success, to attributing to his success. Always praised Quincy. Quincy, on the other hand, is a different story. But so so let me back it up. So where I last left off, so Quincy Jones, told MJ, okay, I could be your producer. MJ, he was on board for it. Now, supposedly, he took that back to Epic. Epic was not feeling it. They said that Quincy's style was a little bit too jazzy, not really what they were looking for, which, supposedly made MJ, which upset MJ because he really wanted Quincy to be his music producer. He told that to Quincy, and Quincy's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to work out. Like, I'm going to produce your music. Everything is going to be, just fine. Also, which according to Quincy Jones, he kind of liked that, like, little bit of pushback, where he had to, like a challenge, like, okay, like they don't think that my style is what they're looking for, or that, I'm just pretending like this is the thoughts of Quincy Jones, which could have been. But Quincy thinking like, this is a challenge. They don't think that, my style is what they're looking for, that, I could really take it where it needs to go with Michael Jackson, but I'm going to prove them wrong. So, because Quincy did actually say he liked that little bit of a pushback, that little bit of a challenge. And then additionally, compounded onto that, Papa Joe and others also said that supposedly told Quincy that he could not make Michael Jackson any bigger than he already was, which, true enough, like even before Thriller, MJ was still a huge celebrity, huge, huge artist in the music business, been doing it since he was small, extremely talented. So they just felt like, do your thing, Quincy, but I don't think it's possible to make, Michael Jackson any bigger than what he already is, which Quincy claims he liked as well, because that, sorry, you guys, what is going on? Okay, never mind. Okay, which anyway, sorry, you guys, I had to check it. You guys know I'm doing this off my phone. But anyway, the two collaborated, and we know kind of like history from there, right? They literally made history from there. Quincy Jones helped to produce 3 of MJ's albums, major albums, Off the Wall, which sold, they say, about like 20 million copies, which was still huge. Like, that's phenomenal for any artist. Very successful album. And then turned around, literally made magic with Thriller, which sold 65 million copies. Literally unheard of, just like, who does that? Like, just breaking records, the most sold, album in history, like, whoa. So that made, not that Quincy Jones wasn't already on the map, but that made Quincy Jones, especially at that time, an incredibly powerful music producer. Like nobody had done that before, Pryor. Now, let alone, like, he was working with MJ. So, regardless of his abilities as a music producer, and I'm not saying that, those abilities aren't there, he was still working with a prodigy. Like, come on. But clearly, when the two came together, they made magic, just like unheard of. So the Thriller album, then came Bad. Now, Bad sold still 47 million copies. Hey, what's up, Marquise? Thank you. And again, like I say, for you guys that are not joining this while this is live, you guys can always check the live chat and see who am I chatting with. And I am, Marquise says, hey, everybody. So for those of you guys who are not watching this live, even later, you guys could say, what's up, to Marquise, jam stuff into the chat and to others that might possibly leave something in the live chat. But okay, so then moving on, they did the last album, which was the last album, Bad, which was the last album that they actually collaborated together on. Still selling tremendous. No, it wasn't a 65 million copy sale, but still extremely tremendous. 47 million copies, something like that, were sold at that time. So still huge, but now supposedly, and like I said, a lot of this is alleged by Quincy. And Quincy, we're gonna start unpacking some of the stuff that Quincy had to say. My apologies for any noise in my background, you guys. Um, but anyway, yeah, we'll start unpacking some of the stuff that Quincy had to say. But according to Quincy, he says that MJ felt that he was, toward Bad was kind of out of touch with what was popular, what was, the new beat, the new style, the new sound. And Quincy claims that once he brought Run DMC into the studio during Bad or something like that, I guess while they were working on that MJ was just like, nah, like, like he's really out of touch. Which I could kind of get. I mean, like the Run DMC is still also another iconic music group. Still to this day, like there's a lot. You say Run DMC, people know what group that you're talking about. You could be talking to any generation. But at the same time, they had their period, I would say, of like, new sound just coming out. And maybe if what Quincy says is true, maybe, who knows, maybe MJ was looking at not necessarily rap. Now, Quincy claims that MJ said that, like rap, nobody listens to rap anymore. Maybe not. Maybe MJ might have said nobody listens to Run DMC as much. And, I don't know. These are just my own little thoughts because, like I said, we're purely going off of what Quincy said. Also, with the making of Bad, MJ was credited as being a co-producer on it. Now, supposedly MJ always kind of had like aspirations, ambitions to eventually like produce his own music, which I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's kind of like a natural evolution as a creative or as an artist, is to eventually kind of really get their hands into the producing aspect of it. So during the making of Bad, MJ, they say, kind of worked in the studio separately, working on songs. He also brought in his own musicians. They would lay tracks, and then from there, he would send it over to Quincy to listen to. And then any kind of feedback that Quincy had, maybe they would re-record certain songs. I don't know. But MJ was credited as co-producing Bad, which was their last album together after that. Now, for preceding albums, MJ pulled in other producers. Now, my thoughts. Now, this is the part where I'm kind of dropping in. I got some more, tidbits and stuff to add. But my thoughts is that even though for MJ it was no hard feelings, for Quincy, I think it might have left a bad taste in his mouth, that he felt kind of like snubbed, even though I don't think that was the intentions at all. And then as a creative artist, I mean, like MJ should, even though clearly, yes, they made magic. I'm not going to take that away from the collaboration that they had together, clearly. But I think it's a natural evolution, if you will, for an artist to want to kind of stretch out, expand, and see what else, is out there. It might not be, another producer that's necessarily going to top Thriller, but he might be able to collaborate with another producer that has a certain sound feel for, what it is that he wants to put out at that time. But anyway, clearly Quincy, I personally think, had certain sentiments, certain feelings toward MJ after that. Even though MJ always, publicly gave praise to Quincy Jones throughout. But now we're gonna unpack an interview, which, like I say, this is not new news, but this is something that I think eventually would have to be covered, because why not? If we're covering MJ topics like this 2018 interview that Quincy Jones had with Vulture Magazine, and I think the name of that magazine is quite fitting for how Quincy went about that interview. I mean, he was spilling the tea on everybody but himself, and then had also some very negative things to say, sentiments that he had toward MJ. And then ironically, which I think is really weird, at that time when he was being asked about, his good friend, Bill Cosby, he didn't want to make any comments on that. He said that, like, I'm not going to get into that. I should be talking about, that's my friend. I'm not going to be talking like that. So to me, that contrast means that clearly he didn't feel the same way about MJ. That's just my thoughts, like, because he could have took the same approach. I'm not saying he was wrong not to have spoken about Cosby, but why did he not have that same approach when it came to Michael Jackson and the questions that he was being asked? Just saying, y'all. So anyway, okay, so let's dig into this. I had to write some of it down. Your girl had to take some notes on this here. Okay, so Quincy made statements about, MJ's changing complexion. He said that he never believed any of that, stuff. I'm going to keep it, keep it light for YouTube, but, he used some expletives here and there, but he was saying that, he never believed any of the stuff that MJ said about, having a skin disease, having vitiligo, and that, he just wanted to be white, and, come on, look at his kids. So that's a mouthful alone right there for Quincy to say. Personally, my thoughts, I think that MJ, at least it was his makeup artist that he had for years, since like the beginning, did do an interview, and she was saying that for the longest that MJ tried to hide his skin disease from her, which I believe, because even during like that whole Pepsi commercial fire thing, he still was adamant that he asked the ambulance, if they could please just keep on his glove. Now, it was said that he had a lot of discoloration that he wasn't able to hide in his hand. And there's a lot of pictures, if you guys ever just feel like doing some digging, you want to go on the internet or whatever and type in vitiligo, Michael Jackson, there's a lot of pictures that show, images where he's very blotched up. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, well, if he wasn't even comfortable enough to show his makeup artist, who he should have like a one-on-one type of relationship with, especially when it comes to his complexion, his skin, but he didn't even feel comfortable enough to kind of like show that, why would he be around Quincy, like keeping, like, why would he do that? So maybe because Quincy never saw him like really blotched up, then he just felt like, he's lying about that. He's lying. And two, I think that at that time, MJ never really, he did bring it up like in the Oprah interview, and I think he may have brought it up once before, where he said that he had he had a skin disease that kind of ran through the family, vitiligo, but because people, because at the time when MJ shared that, I think that because the internet, people weren't really using the internet like that. I mean, well, I should say the internet wasn't up and running the way it is now, where anything we want to find out or see an image of or learn more about, we could just type it in real quick and we could get so much information on it. At that time, I mean, like, probably when he brought that up, it was probably like, go to the library and see if you could find a book on it, or I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying the internet wasn't around. I'm just saying, like, the how easily we're able to consume and take in information and learn about different things wasn't like quite at the forefront at the time when MJ mentioned his skin disease. And that's on top of him not really diving into like, this is what vitiligo looks like, blah, 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 blah. So Quincy might have already kind of formed his own opinions of like, no, he just wants, to look a certain way or whatever. But personally, I think that it was Quincy's own, like, for him to talk like that to a magazine, to a tabloid. Now, true enough, this is after MJ's passing, because this is 2018. MJ passed in 09. But still, like, and I hope my screen didn't just go out on you guys. I don't know. It's a little dark from what I see, but we're gonna roll with it, okay? But where did I leave off? But so I was just saying that, personally, I think that it was Quincy's own personal, like, ego, his own, a lot of times people, if they can't be a part of something or you tell them you don't need their help, they kind of want to see you fail. They want to see you stumble, or they might feel some sort of way because they're not in on your successes, right? So I think that when MJ did decide, like, okay, it's been a great run. I really, we made magic with Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, but now I want to kind of explore and see what else is out there. I think that, personally, I think that Quincy, like, that left a bad taste in his mouth. And even though he may have acted like all is well, like, hey, Michael, whatever, I think that he, after that, just was not necessarily in Michael Jackson's corner, even though Michael Jackson always did credit Quincy. And too, like, okay, even the success or, whatever numbers of copies sold on albums post Bad, that to me, it isn't even really like fair, so to speak, because a lot of his ability to sell records and really promote his music, a lot of that was shrouded in a lot of negative tabloid coverage. So a lot of his projects, a lot of his albums were not really given the opportunity to be as successful as, in the past, before a lot of allegations and all that, even though MJ was able to, was found not guilty on everything that was brought his way, is still like just kind of, even to this day, obviously, you can still find a lot of negative press coverage on, Michael Jackson still. So, a lot of, like I say, even the albums post Bad, Quincy didn't have anything to do with, actually working on them, but that's really says nothing about it because, like I say, MJ definitely hit a rough patch, you know what I mean? I shouldn't even say a rough patch, but just like was dealt some really hard cards, heavy cards that, kind of overshadowed a lot of projects and really quality work that he put out. Okay. But let's dig more into Quincy. So Quincy, what I think is so fascinating is, like I say, aside from the point that I just made, it kind of lets you know his own personal feelings, or how he was actually really feeling toward MJ, because if he did not want to make comments on Cosby, not saying that he should have, okay, he didn't speak on it, that's good, like, but why would he not have that same, why would his feelings and why would his response not be the same when he's asked like a lot of kind of tabloid-ish type of questions about MJ and his thoughts on MJ? Like, why, not to say he can't speak and say whatever he, wanted to say, but just, think about that. I don't know. Now, true enough, Quincy Jones, I don't know if he's 90 yet. So he's up there. I do not, I don't know personally, but I don't think that he has Alzheimer's or anything like that. It's possible, maybe, perhaps, that a lot of things he just wanted to get out or didn't want to take to the grave with him. I don't know. but he had a lot to say. So just to like kind of refresh for those of you all who are familiar, this is a refresh for those of you all who are not completely aware of a lot of the comments that Quincy made in his interview with Vulture in 2018. He said quite a bit. So he talked about that he knew who killed Kennedy. Like, whoa. Then he went off and he talked about how he dated or he went out with Hillary Clinton before. Talked about the Clintons. He claims that when he met Paul McCartney, when Paul McCartney was just 21 years old, he said, and I quote, said that they were a bunch of no-playing MFers. He talking about the Beatles. Oh no, I'm sorry. He didn't date the Clintons. I'm sorry. He didn't date. I'm sorry. Let me kind of go back on that. Retract. He didn't say he dated. He said he dated Ivanka Trump before. I knew it was the first, dealing with the president, because later, as we know, ex-president Trump. But anyway, but yeah, he had dated Ivanka before. I'm sorry, I just missed a comment. Hey there, hola, Tara. Hey, hey. Yes. And that he, what else did he say? Oh, and okay, so this was one that, the comment that he made with this one was one that really kind of like made a lot of headlines, kind of shook it. He claimed that Marlon Brando had a ferocious kind of appetite, not just for women, but for men, and that he, had a lot of ladies, but he also had a sexual relationship with Richard Pryor, with James Baldwin, with Marvin Gaye. Like he's, like I say, my thoughts are that he maybe just, they do say it's not just Hollywood, but everything happens in Hollywood. Some people call it Holly weird and all this and that. So, I mean, we've heard about the parties that Jada and Will have had before and all, like there's stuff that happens in Hollywood. But I just thought it was, yeah, hola. Oh, Marquise was saying hola to her. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that he's spilling the tea on everybody but himself. So, about this and that, and, he was saying he hung out with Marlon Brando many times, and yeah, and all the stories, and, he talks quite a bit, goes into his Hollywood stories and stuff, but he does not dish his own dirt, which I thought was really something. And this is what I observed, and this probably, I'm sure I'm not the only one, if they, one of you guys out there have seen the clip. So it was some award show, right? And Quincy Jones, he's at the podium. There's other celebs around him. Prince is also up there as well. And it was like, everyone had said something, and Quincy was trying to get Prince to say some words or something, and Prince, was being a diva, and he had his lollipop in his mouth on stage, and he was like he didn't want to say anything, no comment, and then like Quincy's like trying to get him to say something else, and Prince takes the lollipop out of his mouth and goes like this to Quincy, and Quincy looks like this, and then Quincy goes, ha ha, like he's gonna suck the lollipop. Like, what is that? And just when he was like getting real close to his lollipop, Prince pulled his lollipop back and was like, no, and put it back in his mouth. So to me, that felt a little flirty. It felt very flirty. So I think personally, like, while Quincy was dishing everybody else's dirt, he did not bother to dish his own. While he's given the tea on Brando, but they claim, and Quincy wouldn't actually be the only source. They say that Marlon Brando was actually very open. It was known, and he made no qualms about it. That it didn't matter, about being openly bi or whatever. I don't know. But still, while Quincy's dishing Brando and Pryor, I think James Baldwin though was open. I think it was known that James Baldwin was that way, but Marvin Gaye, like my God, what have you done, Quincy? You know, we want the full tea. You know, don't just throw a few little drops. You know, like spill it all. You're gonna spill it. And then also, this is also my own personal observations. There was, and it was actually kind of funny to me. It was an interview that Quincy Jones did in his older age. Like, so how recent? I don't know how recent it was. It might have been, it could have been before or after or just around that time that he did his Vulture Magazine interview or whatever. I don't know. But the interviewer was he wasn't nice looking. He was an attractive man, but it was just so funny because Quincy, they go through the interview and then Quincy Jones was like, man, you are handsome. Have you ever been in Hollywood? You ever thought about going to Hollywood? Man, you are really handsome. And it was just so funny because the guy that was doing the interview, and you could tell he felt a little uncomfortable. And then Quincy, I think he says it like maybe 3 times throughout the interview, like, man, you're really good. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think women, we compliment each other all the time. Maybe guys do it too. But it was funny to me because to me, you could tell that the interviewer felt a little like uncomfortable, like, I don't know. But I thought it was funny. And like I said, I'm kind of connecting that with the whole Prince on stage thing. Like, Quincy, you talking about everybody else, what about you? But think about it too. Since he was kind of spilling the tea on everybody, he did not once. Did you hear him? There was no statements made about MJ. I'm just saying, like, that was a lot of, there was always tabloids saying this, saying that, saying MJ is, whatever, pedophile, he's gay, he's this, he's that. And to me, for Quincy to talk the way that he spoke about MJ, saying he doesn't want to be black, and look at his kids, and saying a lot of negative stuff, to me, that would have been something he would have easily have put out there, like said, oh yeah, I think he did it. Or, oh yeah, MJ sometimes, was connected with but he didn't have any of that to share. He got into other celebrities, and he gave, I guess, as much negative whatever he could put out with MJ, but he never once spoke about, kids. Not once did he speak about MJ having any kind of relationship with another male, even though he was open to talk about everybody else's stuff. So to me, without him actually standing behind MJ, I think the fact that there was none of that to like uncover or to say, yeah, to me, further kind of credits MJ is like, come on. So, and then also lastly with Quincy, there was a lawsuit. Let me see here. I'm gonna, I gotta pull out my papers to give you guys details with the lawsuit. So Quincy, he was awarded $9.4 million after he claimed he was cheated out of royalties, which I think he originally sued for like $30 million because he says that, this was money that he should have collected after MJ's death in 2009. So he sued for $30 million, but he was awarded $9.4 million. And supposedly that lawsuit goes back to 2013 when he sued MJJ Records for projects that occurred after MJ's death. So like they say through that, like they had to examine all of the original contracts from Off the Wall, from Thriller, from Bad. And that the whole trial took about like 3 weeks. Oh, good, it's still up. I'm so used to it going out the screen. But yeah, so supposedly after experts and everybody like examined the contracts, he was awarded that. But he made a statement that, this was just about upholding the integrity of the music that they made together. I don't, if this was post MJ's death, so I don't, know one way or the other. whether he should have gotten it or not. I guess experts looked at the contracts. What else? What else? And then also he said something about he was supposed to receive royalties from MJ's joint venture with Sony, something that he was supposed to have gotten in 1991 from some sort of film or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, if you guys have anything additional to add or your thoughts on Quincy, you guys can leave comments down below. Again, I've just kind of presented what I know to be facts and then my own personal thoughts on it. That's just, I feel like a lot of times, and it's just human nature, a lot of times if people cannot be a part of your successes, sometimes they don't always wish you to be successful. And then for MJ, even still with a lot of his ability to promote his music and sell records, even though a lot of that was shrouded in a lot of negative tabloid coverage and press, he still was majorly successful. You know what I mean? So like, regardless of all of that. But I just thought, I'm like, what? Why is Quincy? What is going on? Just reading all of that. So I don't know why. Maybe just those were certain things that Quincy did not want to take to the grave with him, because he called himself just, telling everybody in Hollywood's business. And those were his own thoughts, negative, thoughts on MJ and MJ's complexion. Now maybe that was compounded with, his rhinoplasties, his nose jobs or whatever, or his hair. I personally, if you guys watch some of my other videos, I actually gave my thoughts on what I felt about that. I feel like, it's easy, or was easy for a lot of people to say that he wanted to, he wasn't happy being black, he wanted to be white, he wasn't, whatever. I personally think that he was dealing with a skin disease. I do believe that MJ had vitiligo. Vitiligo is something that's hugely, can come out in big blotches. And I think that he was, for someone who isn't a celebrity, that is a lot to deal with, a sudden change in your appearance, and just dealing with that. And for MJ, okay, he's a celebrity, one of the most covered celebrities of all time, cameras, photos, on him at all times. I think he did his best to remain looking as, to be one complexion for as long as he could. And vitiligo, it a lot of times, once it does kind of come to the forefront or there's an outbreak of it, a lot of times it can become progressively worse. And I think that he went with, just like what his makeup artist said, he went with what was the majority of, like, where he literally had more white blotches than he had black blotches. I think he did probably see a dermatologist to make it all one color, but I think he went with what he was, he did the very best that he could with that. And then, like, I always give the example, like, okay, well, if you lose all pigment, yet you have very ethnic features, on top of him dealing with a lot of probably childhood trauma, being told, by his father, that he wasn't attractive, and just, dealing with a lot of childhood trauma, that compounded with the fact that, like, your complexion is changing. You're trying, not only are you trying to look normal, but you have to look good because you're in front of the camera. You're being covered a lot. I think he tried to make himself look, and I think he did a great job of it. Now, I do think it did become a little extreme with the rhinoplasties, but I think he did the very best he could with the cards that were dealt him. He probably did better than probably 90% of the population if any of us were in his shoes. So that's my little explanation of why I think, his hair went, more to like straighter, and he just, with the rhinoplasties as well, because like I say, you have absolutely no pigment, yet you have very ethnic features, you know, not to say there isn't beauty in that, but I think he just tried to look as normal, and not just normal, but look as good as he could, and dealt with the cards that, you know, he had. And I think especially him never really taking the time to really sit down and like give like a long explanation or show pictures to the public of like, look, this is what I look like, you know, without makeup, or without, you know, having this procedure done, you know, to make me one color. You know, these are like, he never really, which he shouldn't have had to do, and he didn't do. He never should have had to, you know, talk about his own medical, you know, conditions and stuff like that. But I think because there was a lot that people did not get about him, it made it easy to just kind of clump him in like, oh yeah, he's weird anyway, you know, ugh, you know, he doesn't, you know, want to be black or X, Y, Z in the third. So those are just my personal thoughts. You guys can leave your opinions down below. Like I say, if you guys are new to the channel, please do, well, first of all, like I say, welcome, but please do subscribe, hit the like button as well. And shouts out to Marquise and to Tara for making this live. Much love to you guys. And again, do support me on other platforms. You guys can check me out on TikTok under Leela Michelle. I do have a lot of content. I do call myself a celebrity entertainment content creator. It is a mouthful, but that's literally, you know, what I do. And you guys can especially see that on TikTok. I cover celebrities and entertainment content. A lot of that content on TikTok still kind of one way or the other trails back to MJ. But, you know, you guys can check out a lot of other content on there as well. And then you guys can also support me on Instagram. I'm under I am Leela Michelle, and give me a follow on there. And then lastly, you guys can also follow me, well, not follow, but check out my website, LeelaMichelle.com. And then you guys can support your girl on there. I do sell merch on there. You guys, you know, buy a cup or something. Support your girl. And I will see you guys later. I had so much fun with this live, as always, with you guys. And that was just my little tidbit, my thoughts on it. If you guys know more or something different, please feel free to leave it in the comments section down below. I will see you guys later. Thanks.